grave opened while I was standing on it. The earth sighed like it had been holding its breath for years. Something beneath the soil whispered my name and asked me to stay. I took the night shift at Black Hollow Cemetery because I needed money and because I believed the dead were quiet. The caretaker job paid cash and came with a small shack near the iron gates. Locals avoided the place after sunset. They said the ground was wrong. They said witches had gathered there long ago and the spirits never left. I didn't believe them then. On my first night, the air felt heavier than it should. Fog crawled low between the headstones and wrapped around my boots. The moon hung dull and swollen above the trees. Every sound carried too far. My own footsteps echoed like someone was following just behind me. I told myself it was just nerves and kept walking my route. The cemetery was old. Stones leaned at strange angles and names were worn smooth by time. Some graves had no dates. Others had symbols carved deep into the rock circles and crooked lines that made my eyes ache if I stared too long. As I passed a far row near the woods, I smelled smoke. Not fresh smoke, but old and bitter, like burned herbs. Then I heard chanting, soft at first, a low rhythm that rose and fell with the wind. I followed it to a clearing where the trees formed a broken ring. The ground there was blackened and bare. In the center stood a stone altar, cracked down the middle. The chanting stopped as soon as I stepped closer. Silence pressed hard against my ears. That was when the first ghost appeared. She rose from the ground like fog taking shape. A woman in a dark dress, scorched and torn. Her face was pale and her eyes were empty holes. She opened her mouth and the chanting returned, but now it came from everywhere at once. I froze. My breath came out in white bursts. She drifted past me and sank back into the earth, as if pulled down by unseen hands. I ran back toward the shack and locked the door. The walls felt thin. Wood creaked and popped. From outside came the sound of bare feet on gravel, circling the building. I held a flashlight and didn't turn it off. Sleep did not come. Near dawn, I heard knocking, slow and careful. 3 taps, then a pause, then 3 more. I didn't answer. When the sun rose, the knocking stopped and the cemetery looked almost peaceful. I convinced myself it was imagination and exhaustion. The second night, the cemetery woke fully. Graves shifted when I passed. Dirt slid and stones cracked. Whispers followed me between the rows. Heard my name spoken in different voices. Old, young. Some sounded like they were laughing. Others sounded angry. At the edge of the woods, I saw lights flicker, candles moving in a circle. I watched from behind a stone as figures stepped into the clearing. Women wrapped in dark cloth. Their hair hung loose and wild. Witches, they held hands and swayed as they chanted. The ground beneath them glowed faintly red. Faces pushed up through the soil around the circle ghost, trapped halfway between worlds, screaming without sound. One which lifted her head and looked straight at me. Her eyes were clouded white, but I knew she could see. She smiled and pointed to the ground beneath my feet. The earth trembled. A grave split open and a hand burst through the soil. Then another. Dead fingers clawed at the air. A body pulled itself free. Its skin was gray and stretched tight. Its mouth hung open in a silent plea. More graves opened. The cemetery became a field of rising dead. I ran. Headstones blurred past. The fog thickened until I could barely see. Something grabbed my ankle and I fell hard. Cold hands dragged me toward an open grave. I kicked and screamed and tore free. When I looked back, the grave was empty again, as if nothing had happened. I reached the shack and slammed the door. The witch's chanting grew louder. Shadows passed across the windows. Faces pressed against the glass. The walls shook as if the dead were trying to get in. Crouched in the corner and covered my ears. The chanting stopped suddenly. In the silence, I heard breathing right behind me. I turned and saw a child, standing in the room. Mud streaked its face. Its eyes were black and deep. It pointed at the door and then at me. A voice filled my head, not the child's, but many voices together. They said the cemetery was hungry. They said it needed a keeper. The door burst open. Cold air rushed in. The witches stood outside, with the ghosts gathered behind them. The ground pulsed like a living thing. One witch stepped forward and spoke. She said, "The dead never rest here." She said, "Someone must stay to listen and to remember." I ran past them into the night. The cemetery twisted around me. Paths changed. Gates vanished. Graves opened and closed like mouths. The dead reached for me but didn't touch. They guided me toward the center. I found myself standing in the clearing again. The altar glowed bright now. The ground beneath my feet softened. It opened. I woke up at sunrise, lying near the road outside the cemetery gates. Mud covered my clothes. My boots were missing. The gates were closed and locked. The place looked quiet and empty. I quit the job that morning and left town. Months have passed. I live far from Black Hollow now. Still, at night, I smell smoke. I hear chanting in my dreams. Sometimes I wake with dirt under my fingernails. Last night, I found a symbol carved into the floor beside my bed. A circle and crooked lines. I hear knocking now. 3 taps, then a pause, then 3 more. It comes from beneath the floor. Something is calling me back to keep watch. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more chills. Thanks for listening.